Grace had sent you the link. Tracy?
I said,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was talking to you and I forgot I was on mute. I'm putting it up now. Can you hear me?
Yep, thanks.
Okay. I'm over here talking, like, why are they not answering me? That would be why. All right, on the tip, should be good to go. Evaluate committee. YouTube. All right, good to go.
Okay, everyone's coming back in now.
Okay.
Johnson, what do you have to say?
Oh, this is wonderful, Vincent. The response is overwhelming. I can't believe you've done such a good job in such a short period of time.
Good.
Dr. Bullard, everyone's here in the main room. You're good to go.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Please note any comments by the public are welcome and can be emailed to publiccomment@lsbme.la.gov. Confirm the identity of the televisits and video conference participants.
Yes, I can confirm we have everybody identified, sir.
Okay. All additions to the executive or public agenda must be made presently, as no longer be able to add things to the agenda. And if okay with everybody, we can start the roll call.
Yes.
Please identify yourselves.
Judson
Kylie.
Willard.
Kylie Foster.
Kyle Schwab.
Christine Swallow.
Melissa Boutte.
Joseph Bordelon, and Dr. Davis may be coming back in a second. I think she had to step out just a second. Can we?
I'm Patricia Wilton. I'm one of the attorneys for the board.
Yeah.
I'm Vince Collada, Executive Director of the board.
I guess first item is to have approval of the minutes from the February 17th meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Yes. And I think the minutes were attached in the one of the attachments sent out yesterday. Any questions about that, or do we have a move to accept?
Move to accept.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Under new business, I guess, Ms. Fulton, we kind of reviewed this, I guess, the last time, the time from application to approval. And then under the A step, in the breakout, we did have some questions that we'll discuss when we get there.
Okay. I don't know that I have any additional information about the time frame from application to into completion. Dr. Claudia, did you have any additional information about that?
I can get it as we speak. Give me a moment and I'll pull up some data and I'll be here, happy to share. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, I thought we had covered that topic at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do, but I'm trying to update you. Just give me a minute. Let me get it up. I'll get the data and I'll share it with y'all. Now, remember, we should only share some of this data in executive session, especially if it shows names, because it's only for you all. But if you want to just have numbers, I can talk to you with numbers without doing anything.
Yeah, numbers would be fine, I guess.
Good enough. All right, at the present time, we have only 5 licenses, initial licenses pending. And let me see if I can get you those dates. 1 second. And all of them are from earlier than 10/10/22. And so all of them are 22 and 23. And these are people that have not provided all of the information yet. But again, we only have 5 outstanding initial applications.
And is the documentation what is it, criminal review or approval, or
No,
just
they have to apply to our licensing analysts. They're all getting emails. They're all, and we're actually going to, if a couple of these are getting to the point where they're going to be closed out because they have not responded timely, and we do have a process now where we close them out
okay.
if they don't respond timely.
Okay. Any questions? So the second item is the law changes and A step.
Okay, this is the proposed rule that Pat's put together, and that we thought that this was what you asked us to do. And if it's not, you need to tell us.
No, so I did have a question. On the website, it says that the law supersedes the rules because the rules to law is in development. The emergency rule change, would that be superior or supersede the law?
Pat, you want to answer that for her?
So the emergency rule amends our existing rules, your existing rules for licensure. My understanding is that restriction to KHAP only was in our rules, not a part of the law. Did I misunderstand that? Did I overlook that? I'm going to pull it up real quick while we're speaking.
Yeah, I think it is in the law too. It's number like 6.
Yeah, when the law was being discussed, I think the intention or the group from New Iberia that wanted to have the law amended wanted to have the A step, wanted to increase the supply of or access for text to get licenses. And I thought he wanted a step, and I think that was kind of where a lot of confusion came, that it didn't really get into our rules and regs. But if this is what's going in, is it already in place?
No, it's not. This is a draft. Now,
So we did have, so the way it's drafted, they would have to be a graduate of an A-step program and then pass the board exam. Part of that, they have to have clinical training. Do they need to have a permit or status, student status during that time frame?
If they're training, we don't require a training permit for them. They're in training.
Okay. And so once they complete the process and take the board exam, the results of the board exam are sent to y'all, and they have to get the license before they're able to work without supervision.
Okay, first of all, can you tell us how often the exam is available?
Well, applicants would have to complete the 80-hour course completely before getting any clinical experience. And then they would do the online modules, get the clinical experience. After they have over 1,000 hours, they would be eligible to sit for the exam. The BRT is offered many times a year.
So it's not like they have to wait 3 or 4 or 5 months to get from course matter to completion to taking the exam, right?
Correct.
All right, well, then we would wait till we can get them to submit their passing scores to us. And if they meet the other requirements and the criminal background check is good, they will get a license in a timely fashion. We generally say, once everything is complete, in other words, our licensing analysts, Ms. Bartholomew, Ms. Johnson, and Ms. Eloma, have all determined that all of the requirements to be licensed are met. And they hold themselves to a standard of, once all of that is done, within 10 working days, they will issue a license. The problem is that not everybody sends us all the stuff. But once we get, go ahead.
So I just kind of have a question. So somebody who's graduated the BRPT would get a technologist license, correct? Why are we? Well, no, if they're boarded, they would get the technologist. Why
No,
would you?
if they're certified, are a technician by the BRPT. If you're registered, you're a technologist.
Yeah, so the law says for a technologist, you have to have passed an examination administered as a component of a certification program accredited by NCCA, ANC, or other national accrediting organizations approved by the LSBME. And it does not limit it to any particular exam. And then it says LSBME may issue a license to a BRPT registered technologist who relocates in the state. Technicians, the law says the applicant has passed the certification examination offered by BRPT or has completed an educational program accredited by KHAP.
Okay.
And so we're adding a step into the rules.
Correct.
For technologists.
Well, you'd want to add it for technician because they still have to pass the BRPT to be a technologist.
Yeah, I can't add it. It's not a rule. It's not rules. It's not rules for technicians. That's in the law.
So we can, so if we have the change is the red and the red line. Correct?
Yes.
And that would allow an individual to go through the A-step pathway, but they don't get a license until they've completed and passed the exam.
Correct.
For an institution, a hospital that's doing the training, the clinical training, they would be covered under student training issues, or how do?
At the present time, we assume that they're students. We don't license students.
Okay. Would they need to identify themselves as a student? Is that kind of what's assumed?
At the present time, we make no requirement for that. Just like we don't make any requirement in medicine for physicians to tell people that they're a student doctor. That is something that we have traditionally stayed out of. If you think it is important, we can consider it, present it to the board, but I think students are students, and that's really, we don't really regulate the education in that sense.
Okay. Yes.
I think when they're training in a center or in a hospital facility, they're under a trainee.
Yes.
And they're not certified, they're not registered, they're a trainee. So
Okay.
that's how they identify for its patients.
Okay.
Well, that's between the hospital and its mechanisms. It's not a board requirement, just like we have medical students that are doing clerkships in surgical wards and scrubbing in on surgery. We don't say that they have to identify themselves as anything. Now, if you think it's something that needs to be added, we can certainly propose it to the board on your recommendation, and the board can either accept it, reject it, or modify it. But again, I'm not sure that what are we trying to gain by doing this? So maybe we can see the value of it.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's anything that needs to be in the law. I know at one time the BRPT they were supposed to be doing the initials, and that's where they were identifying the individuals that were in training before taking certification as a trainee. Not the CP, but the T. That way you identify each class. You have the training, they take the first test, you're certified, then they take the registry, then you're registered.
Again, that's licensing is one issue, and how they
Yes.
identify themselves in institutions is another issue that may not really be the purview of this board.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other comments?
No, so on the emergency rule change that was sent out this morning, are they gonna change that?
Well, I guess that's what Ms. Wolf is asking us. Is this meet everybody's satisfaction, or anybody else?
Right. Is this what you wanted in terms of
So,
trying to make additional employees available who you couldn't hire because they didn't have KHAP? And does
So
this address the shortage?
I think where it says ASEP education program, like a graduate, it should say the 80-hour course was completed.
But that would be the graduate, wouldn't it?
So it says be a graduate of an ASEP educational program in polysomnography.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that-
The 80 hours.
Yeah.
We'd have
And
to
well, and then number 2, it says that they well, I guess because they passed the exam ASEP. We don't need number 2.
Lauren, we're reviewing the emergency declaration
Okay,
on ASAP.
so does it override anything in the Polysomnography Act that would inhibit us from using A-step as a training?
No,
No.
it is allowing it to be used as a training.
Okay,
Yeah.
Allows us a second pathway, yes.
and are they gonna be a permit? Do they have a permit after the 80 hours to do clinicals?
No, Their clinical training, they're trainees. We're not giving them anything except a licensed technologist or technician license. And the issue is that when they complete the required work and submit the application to the board can verify it, they will get a license. We do not, as we said earlier, license trainees except when they are taking primary responsibility for patients as residents, and we give them, those are training permits for residents. They're accepting primary responsibility for patients because there's some of them even, they're doing surgery on these people. But medical students, and we consider those students that are getting any other kind of training the same as that they are trainees in the institution.
All right, so they're going to be working with a licensed tech to set up studies and do sleep studies to do their clinicals, and they don't need a permit to do that.
Right.
Because it's under, we're going to say that it's under the umbrella of being a student.
Do you want them to have a permit to do that? Maybe it's the way I should be asking.
No, because
Well,
when
I
they're
think
training,
that's what it was
they're
before.
working. No, because when they're working under that registered technologist, that's who takes the responsibility, the person they're working under. The trainee doesn't need a licensure or anything, a permit to train. They're doing clinicals. They're working under that registered person.
Well,
That's why they're supposed to be with a registered person and not a certified person.
I understand, and that's what we're saying, but it keeps coming up. Do they need a permit? And it sounds like somebody wants a permit. And if y'all want a permit, tell us and we'll rewrite the rule. But I don't see a need for a permit, but if you want a permit, say so and get a vote for it and we'll put it in.
Well,
the
I'm just thinking, well, what's to keep people from doing clinical underneath a licensed tech before they do the A-step program or anytime, really? You just say they're working under the licensed tech?
Yeah. So the first thing, if we accept the draft, then this would allow the A-step pathway. They would still need supervision until they pass the exam. I mean, it's.
Yeah. So, you know, they would still be unlicensed.
Yeah. It's a definite, it's kind of what everybody thought we were going to have a few years ago. So I think it's what we're asking for.
Yeah, we have no formal school to send them to, so this pathway is great.
Yeah.
All right, well, we would like a motion to say that you approve the proposed rule as submitted. We'll get it to the board for final approval on the 27th. And after that, Pat will send it up to the state and they'll get it implemented pretty quickly.
I might have missed this. So were we going to add the verbiage after completing the 80-hour didactic A-step program?
No, we say be a graduate of KHEP or an A-step educational program in polysomnography.
Yeah. And you
I mean,
can't.
do you need, are you, I went to the website to see what it is since I'm not in this field, and it referred to the 80-hour A-step educational program. That's what they called it. I don't necessarily want to put 80 hours in it in case they make it 85 or 75 going forward in the future or something like that. But is there more than one A-step educational program, or should I put the A-step educational program?
Well, the A-step program has the 80 hours didactic. Then typically they'll go to the clinical hours and they'll be setting up patients and doing sleep studies. During that time, they should be doing the online modules to study. And when they finish modules and get their hours, then they take the test. So I guess, we're trying to regulate when these people get patient contact and are actually doing studies. We want them to do the 80-hour didactic first, and then they would typically start doing the clinical part. But we don't want them doing their clinical hours before they finish the didactic. And so,
Or should I say, or the A-step didactic educational program or something? Is that, I mean, you tell me how to word it, it's fine. I'm not married to any of this language.
Well,
You
I
can't
don't think we can
graduate from
legislate
A-step
that.
until you've
Yeah.
completed the 80 hours.
All
And,
that is
and the
already
modules,
in.
right?
Yeah, all that is already in the BRPT setup for the A-step program. We can't write out and legislate that. Now, it's according to the sleep centers and facilities and managers not to put those people on patients. You know, that's what we really need to enforce throughout the state with these sleep centers, not to have these untrained people handling patients.
Well,
Now,
they
that's a
won't
whole other thing that doesn't have anything to do with this.
do it.
I kind of like it. I mean, it's simple. You don't get caught up with changes and stuff. So
Right.
Yeah, I think it says exactly what it needs to say to get those people licensed.
they don't get a license until they pass the exam, and I think that's kind of we always thought was a quality issue that we need to keep in place.
So just go with it as is and because it is just an emergency thing. I mean, at some point years down the road, we can go back and revise the Polysomnography Act, but this will get us where we need to go for now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good for 120 days. And we either have to make it a permanent rule or it lapses of its own accord.
okay. Say that again.
An emergency rule is in effect for 120 days. At that point, it either lapses of its own accord, but presumably if it's a rule you want to keep in place, we have begun the process for making it a permanent rule.
Okay. We have a motion.
Motion to accept.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I
No opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you all. What's next? The committee appointments.
Okay, let me. So, Joe, we're waiting on the governor to finalize yours. Now, at this point, if you look at the sheet we provided, I think we got everybody where they need to be. Is there anybody who has a concern about the way that it's written on that document we sent you out?
Correct. Yeah, I guess the other section was the administrator.
That has to be LHA. We can't do that.
Okay.
And
Is
so,
there anybody that has been in contact with them or not?
I have, again, if they've got somebody who's interested,
Yeah.
and we had a number of names that came to us, they have to contact LHA and say, I want to be appointed to do this.
Okay.
Because I don't want to.
Caroline, did you say Chris Harr was willing to do it?
Yeah, Chris told me he was willing, and then Lauren said her administrator would be willing also. But Chris has such experience; he would be a terrific addition, and
Well,
it may help him.
does somebody need to facilitate the communication to LHA to ask them if they would nominate Chris?
Yeah. How do we go about getting in touch with them?
The best is if Chris calls LHA, call their lobbyists and say, we need this appointment. I want to serve. And that's the best way to get it done.
Okay.
if Chris wants my help, tell Chris to contact me and we will help him. But I
Okay,
don't want to be seen as manipulating the advisory committee in an improper way.
okay. All right. It's not on the agenda, but Dr. Van, could you mention your rural health initiatives, since some of the individuals might be able to communicate that?
Well, this is, you mean for physicians?
Yes.
Okay, well,
The unmatched physicians.
I can give you a brief update. The board has recognized that there is a problem with unmatched graduates in Louisiana for a number of years. We have been working through a number of political, educational, and subsequently legal issues to get to where we are today. We are rolling out for this match and a process where initially it'll be Louisiana residents unmatched, Louisiana graduates unmatched, I should say, and matched or combined with physicians in family medicine or internal medicine that work in a rural area, and they will have the opportunity to work with these physicians and bill and charge for their work. It'd be a contractual arrangement, how they get paid by the doctor and the graduate. And the board will issue them a special license to do this for 1 year. At the end of the year, it is hoped that they will have completed 50 hours of AMA training, some internet didactic lectures presented by the medical schools for residents in a similar situation. And there'll be a good letter recommendation for the next match so that they would become a more matchable candidate in the next year. Again, it's only a 1 year program, and then we start for the new group of unmatched residents. And it's evolving as we speak. It's gone worldwide already. I can tell you, I'm getting emails from as far away as Syria and Jordan, and people are interested in it. But at the present time, because it's a pilot experimental program, we're limiting this first year to the residents, or I should say the graduates from Louisiana medical schools. And this is an attempt to be able to see if we can control it and make it work, because it's still a highly experimental and pilot program. We've already got 9 physicians who have volunteered to be preceptors, and we're going to work with them. There's an online education, I should say an online application that is available for both preceptor and graduate, and people are being advised of this at this time. And that's where we're going to try and go.
Awesome. So they would be paid by billing for their services.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. That's awesome.
We try.
I guess the next item, any other items anybody wants to talk about? Then maybe setting the next meeting.
Works for us.
How about end of the summer sometimes, maybe August or later?
It's your call, whenever you want it.
Any ideas?
I think August fine.
Yeah, how about August, a Friday in August like this?
To sit and Olivia will get together, get a date, send it out, make sure y'all are comfortable with it. We'll get it on the schedule as soon as possible.
Awesome. Motion to adjourn?
I
Motion.
moved to one. I second.
Mhm.
Well, again, late, please forgive us. The board's president got Ms. Wilton and I on a phone call right as we were starting. And again, I apologize to all of you for making you wait.
No problems. We enjoyed talking.
Have a good weekend.
Have a great one.
Bye, y'all.
Have a good
Stay
weekend.
everybody safe with don't drink too much green beer.